Okay.
Go.
Okay, the radios at the CE5 at Gary's event. First of all, it was cloudy, rainy, with an incredible electrical lightning light show. I mean, I live in Arizona most of the time, and there's a lot of monsoon activity. There's lightning, but that was something. But no thunder. So we thought it was probably pretty far away, but we couldn't hear thunder, but it was just lighting up like crazy. But we could feel sprinkles. Sometimes it was very overcast, so we didn't see a lot of things in the sky. But Kevin said, let's start taking pictures of the lightning because sometimes craft show up in the clouds of the lightning. And if you listen to the channel, that's the first time ever I have heard Ra, I think it was Ra, saying, we are going to allow you to take photos, take out your phones. I've never heard that. Even in the previous channels since 2016, he never referenced phones or pictures or taking pictures, right, Kevin?
Yeah, that's because
And
I know.
I've never heard him say that, and I have a lot of those earlier channels. And that he said, get your phones out. So we had our phones out, and we were just kind of randomly taking pictures in the sky and over each other. And there were orbs and light. It was. I didn't know if I saw that. I was completely enthralled with the radio. So here's what happened with the radios. Aurora had a set, and Gary had a set, and they're all in their holders. And he just says, I encourage you just to go pick one up and just start talking to them if you want. And so if you feel like it, just go get one. So I immediately went and got one. And I went out into the grass and I was sitting by Gary's dog. I just felt like I should go sit by this dog. And the dogs had been coming up to me off and on. There's two of them. They're real friendly. So I'm not even on a chair. I'm sitting in the grass petting this dog, and the radio just starts going crazy. But no one else is making noise, and we're all on the same channel. So it isn't like we're on different channels and picking up these different frequencies from around the area. It's a weird thing I had never experienced. So my radio is just and I wish I knew what they were trying to say. And Ra had said during the channel, I think you're now learning to communicate with us through the radios and binary code. And I had no clue, didn't know if I should be recording the radio and then trying to decipher it. I mean, it was just happening very quickly, the energy and the sounds. So mine's going off. I'm petting the dog and I'm like, I really wish I knew what you were saying. How about 1 for yes, 2 for no? And Kevin came around and sat in a chair kind of close by me. And I got on the radio and was speaking. Are you with us? Can you clear out these clouds? We really want to see you. And can you? And it would just go beep. And I had said 1 for yes, 2 for no. So I got up and went sat by Kevin because I'm like, what's happening here? And I didn't know across the fire pit is Aurora with 3 or 4 other people and her radios. So maybe she can talk a little bit about those in a minute. But what ended up happening is this energy coalesced around Gary and Kevin and I, because Kevin decided to get off topic and show me pictures of his pool and his dogs, and was giving me a really hard time about fish in his pool. And I'm like, how could you have fish in your pool? Well, they're tiles. And the radios just start laughing is what happened, because I wasn't understanding. And they just were, I was holding it. It was just blinking and going like laughter. And Kevin, I said, what is happening with the radios? Gary came over and said, they're interacting with the two of you, and it sounds like laughter, because it wasn't 1 for yes, 2 for no. And it was just, I don't know, Kevin, you can give your interpretation, but Gary's were going off like crazy. We had one other guy named Nick who was real engaged too, talking in him, and they were going off for him. But there were several other radios, just nothing was happening. So it was a very strange thing. Okay, now you two.
Aurora can go first, I think.
Sure. Yeah. Well, one of my radios was going off a lot. Number four, it always goes off a lot. It was like when we first bought the set of four, this radio number four that we got was very chatty. So we figured it was broken and we returned it. And then we got a replacement and it did exactly the same thing. So we figured, yeah, maybe number four, there's something special about it. So that one was going off quite a bit. And it was interesting because it's just fascinating to me how they go off during the conversation, depending on what it is that you're saying. It's so clear that they're listening. So that's pretty much what happens every time we go to Gary's house for a C5. You know, the radios just go off at different times, and sometimes they're completely quiet. If there's really nothing that there's nothing to say. And I also know that even though they may not be chirping, I know that there's somebody there. So it's getting to the point where they no longer have to be making noise constantly. I know that there's somebody there because I can feel them. And so what I've been doing at home is I'm actually recording the chirps, and I've put them into a couple of different AIs to see if there's any pattern. And two of them so far have told me there's definitely a pattern. It's not just random noise. So, you know, in trying to figure out what it is that's being said, that's kind of what I'm trying to do right now, you know, sort of go along with my intuition and whatever telepathic communication comes along, but also, you know, with the signals themselves, just to see if there's anything there. So I'll let you know how that advances, how it progresses, but I'm collecting a whole bunch of data and putting them in different combinations. And, you know, I'm turning them into, like I said, a couple of AIs because I want to make sure that, you know, I'm getting the right answer. And you know how they are. Sometimes it can be biased or wrong, flat out wrong. And you know, the Morse code wasn't working out. So we figured, oh, you know what? The math is the universal language. So maybe we should look at that. And that's what we've been doing, you know, prime numbers and Fibonacci series and all of that. And sure enough, they're there. I mean, when you're getting a message with the first 10 or 11 prime numbers in order, that's not a coincidence. There's definitely something there. So that's what I'm playing with right now with the radios, and I'm really it's really pretty fascinating.
Really, Jimmy Blanchett does that too. He has all the radio contact with the math and equations and Fibonacci code, and so Gary and Jimmy are friends, and so this is kind of a follow-up to his work, and I think there's a there.
I gotta go help my dog get up because he's whining. He's old. He has arthritis, but I'll be right back.
How do you get him up? He's bigger than you.
I have to put my arms literally under his body and lift him. Yeah, it's
I think that Ra mentioned the radios in relation to the binary codes that are coded with digits. And I think he mentioned Pamela Nancy. I listened to the recording, and I think he mentioned Pamela Nancy, Awakening Souls group, and he mentioned the binary codes embedded in the radio. So
he did.
Confirmation of that now that it's in there. I know I've always done some work with that, and I know Pamela Nancy has now. She's and I think she's teaching Melanie how to decipher the codes as well. So really, we're learning in another area of contact with our star families using our technologies, simple technologies like radios. But you can't dispute that. Anybody can check it if you've got the software to see what messages are coming through. So another point of contact. And I know that, I think it was Nick who was sat opposite me and Karen, and he came over and he took a photograph of me, and behind me, there was like an opening, a portal. It was about this big, and a white light directly behind me. And you couldn't see anything.
I saw that. Yeah.
I don't think I saw that.
Did you not see that? Oh, it showed me.
Oh, you got to send it to me.
I don't have a copy of it. I'll have to get in touch with him. But clearly there was a white light. It looked like an open portal directly behind me. It was about 2 feet long, about 6 inches wide, and there was no lights there, but there was this white light.
Oh, it's totally dark.
Yeah,
except totally dark. The fire.
Well, although we didn't see anything per se, we still had contact with them. I thought it was quite interesting, really. And I don't know if you've seen the channels yet. I watched it again, and I thought it was quite interesting in relation to how we lost the signal when Edgar Mitchell was speaking to us. And I think he was a bit miffed.
He was disappointed. He said he was.
He said he was disappointed because she wasn't there. My dogs had just come in. They're going back out again. Oh, there you go.
Well, I think we should tell Rebecca, and maybe Dave probably heard it. I'm not sure. But Edgar Mitchell in the recording referred to Rebecca Hardcastle as Becky.
Becky.
And we had never referred to her that or heard her referred to that. And I've known her like 25 years. So we all in our group were looking at each other saying, is he referring to somebody else, a different Becky? Like, we didn't realize he was talking about her. And so when we were done, I got on and asked Rebecca, I said, now remember, she did not hear that portion of it. We still felt like it was intentional, and we don't know why. What happened was Edgar came in and Rebecca told us she was kicked off the Zoom and she couldn't get back in until Edgar was done speaking. So we don't know what happened, but it was more than coincidence. We felt like there was something intentional there, and that part of it was a confirmation that the channel was legitimate, because this is Rebecca talking, Hardcastle telling me this. She said, he called me Becky the whole time we worked together. So in me not being able to reply or respond, he kept looking for Becky. He saw I wasn't in the room. He saw I wasn't on the channel. And he was then able to say, I'm really disappointed. I really wanted to talk to my friend. Like, he was able to express something that maybe he wouldn't have had she been on the channel. Does that make sense? So we kind of later were processing this, and we all felt like it was a very intentional disconnect for her. And we didn't know why, but then for her to come right back on as soon as Edgar left. So these are the kind of things that were happening that were very strange. And afterwards, we were trying to process. And the other thing we felt, and you three, especially the two of you that were there with me, we had a meditation. You heard it. Rebecca didn't hear it. But it asked for protection. And at the exact time she asked for that, I had a sense of somebody's going to get around that. I didn't tell Kevin this yet, but I, sitting there, thought, when she mentioned Dr. Melanie Barden, she said, we've had this before, an infiltration. We've asked for protection, and they've been able to get through our protection, and we don't want that to happen again. And in that moment, I thought, somebody's going to get in. Mm-hmm. I didn't even tell Kevin this yet, but I've had a sense of that. And if you two who were there remember, it was a strange channel, not because of Kevin, but because of some of the questions being asked that were not part of our group. Would you agree?
Well, I would, yeah. I think there was a different feeling from some of the group there, that they weren't part of the external conscious community, but clearly I've sensed a negative energy there.
So did I.
And then later on, we had that guy that shouted out, which was the same guy I thought asked some very unusual
we better
questions.
tell these guys about that.
Yeah. So, yeah, quite a bit happening there in relation to the channel. But I would agree with you, Karen, in relation to, I think that was probably confirmation about Edgar speaking. I mean, the odds against Rebecca disappearing. But I did, excuse me, I was telling Sandy about it. And she said, well, Kevin, do you remember when you channeled Edgar before at home? He referred to as Becky then throughout the channel.
Oh, I didn't know
that. So I wondered if, I don't know if Karen's got a copy of that transcript of that channel or not. I don't know whether
When was that? What year do you remember?
When I was working with Kevin.
The Council of Four group?
The Council of Four, yeah. So
well, that would have been pretty early on before 20,
it would have been early on, yeah, because I know originally Edgar came
I'll
through.
have to look.
Spoke to the group, and then I think right at the beginning, all 8 of the members of the Council of 8 came through and spoke to the group. So it was right at the beginning, really. It was an introduction to everybody.
I'll go look, because that'd be
interesting to see what he said then. But interesting, Sandy's got a good memory. She's not like me. She said, "Oh yeah, Ed, you referred to as Becky throughout when he spoke to her last time." So yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Confirmation again.
I was listening on Zoom, and I could hear Karen's questions quite clearly. I couldn't hear the other questions very clearly at all, and it sounded a bit.
They were strange.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, let me just say, if we did this again, I'm just giving my impression. So this started out as the exoconscious group. Okay, so that all of us are part of that, including you, Rebecca. That this started out. I knew I was going to be in Florida, and I wanted to get together the Florida people like we did 2 years ago. And from there, the council began to give information to Kevin. This has been going on for 6 months. We planned this a year and a half ago. And he kept getting more and more information about this. And because it's Gary's house and property, it kind of morphed into like more groups. The Awakening Souls group, Citizens for Disclosure, and all of these are legitimate, great groups that are working towards disclosure, but they may not share our exact, objectives and things we've talked about. So it began to like get away from us, is what I felt like. He wanted me, I'm just going to tell you guys, he started to want me to vet people. And if they had a certain political affiliation and supported Trump, he didn't want them on the property. And I'm like, what is this turning into? I had to say, Gary, because he's an avid political activist for anything non-Trump, pretty much. But this started to grow. I want to give some context into something a little bit bigger, and that's okay. It's his property, and I said I respect that. That's your property, but the energy of it kind of shifted to be bigger, and it started to bring in more questions, more people, and I don't know. I felt like it was kind of getting away from us, and I still think it was a great experience, but it was difficult to kind of hone in to what I thought the council wanted to share with us. Would you agree with that, either of you?
Yeah, it felt different than last time. That's for sure. It definitely felt different. And there were some people there, like Kevin mentioned, who were, everybody was nice. I know those people because, I've gone to C5s with them. There's absolutely nothing wrong with them. But there is a certain vibe about our exoconscious group that a lot of the people there didn't share. So even though we did a meditation together and we all tried to get on the same page, those of us who meet every week, we're in a slightly different place than these people that we haven't met before, that don't get together once a week like we do. So, there's just a different, we have a different relationship with one another than we did with those individuals. And I think because of that, the group wasn't as cohesive as it was the first time around. Not that, like I said, there's nothing wrong with those people, but the fact that, we do get together once a week and sometimes, on top of the once a month that we do here, I think that really does make a huge difference as far as people getting on the same page. And I think that's, in my opinion, why it felt a little different, because not everybody there was. We were all on the same page, but we were not all in the same paragraph. Just put it that way.
We're in the same book. We're in the same book, but different
I like that better.
Or something.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And
that's
so,
it.
I'd agree with what David said, though, that I couldn't hear the questions from the other people. I think if we do it again, we need a microphone that we can pass around to the person. Yeah. If we have individual questions, then they have a microphone. Because the last one, I couldn't hear him at all. Let me just say,
some people don't want you to have the questions ahead of time because they think that's cheating, kind of, like they want to be able to ask you on the spot, right? But I think then you open yourselves up to what happened, which is a story about something, and there's not even a question. I mean, the 2 questions you couldn't hear, or 3, were like stories. And, we're like, is there a question in here? Yeah. I was feeling the pressure to be like, come on, what's the question? Because I got a sense from particularly Ort that he was just like, what is it you want from me? And there became a point in that where I felt his frustration a little bit, where he said to one of them, you are talking to me. Because this person was saying, why don't you talk to me? Why don't you communicate with me? I ask you to. And he said, I'm here talking to you right now. So there was just kind of this weird sense of getting away from me and all of us, because people wanted to tell a story and there wasn't even really a question. And I think in the channeling part of it, for my part, sitting right kind of close to Kevin, I could start to feel an energy shift in what they wanted to convey was kind of getting lost a little bit.
It was interesting though, like I said there with I can either do it with the questions or without the questions. But on this occasion, they'd been prepping me for quite a while. And I shared with Karen, on the morning of the channel, they gave me all this information on here.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Which I wrote down. And Karen says, can I read that? I said, no, you can't.
I tried.
But interesting how they gave me what they were going to cover. And they haven't done that to that extent before. So clearly it's an increase in communication. And the question, Melanie didn't get a chance to answer her question, ask her question. But within these notes was the answer to her question before I even heard it. But you have to have an understanding, I think, of this channeling. There's a lot of skeptics about it. Is it real? Do channel people make it up? I don't know. I don't think I do. They do talk to me. I do change the frequencies when they are talking about. I feel the energies. What is it? Do I really know? I don't know. But I know it's a form of communication. And but it's very difficult for people who don't have an understanding and who are closed-minded and skeptics. It's very easy to pull it apart. But I'm confident and comfortable with it because since it started, it's really just using my natural human abilities, which we all have. We just don't allow ourselves to reach those frequencies to allow the communication coming through. But very interesting in relation to one of the questions that Melanie was asking about was the indigenous people that she was in contact with. They were called the Nashaway, and she was getting telepathic communication. They gave her permission to build her property on their land and everything, and they wanted to use it as a feed. In here, it says, and this was the morning before I've even heard the question, that the Nashaway gave Melanie the permission to build a house on her land. They are working with her and the indigenous people's ancestors, which was what her question was about, the indigenous people's ancestors, the Nashaway people. And they'd already given me the answer without me even knowing the question. So it's, to me, I'm quite happy with it.
That's amazing.
Well, this is really interesting. It leaves me wondering, what's the learning from this for us? What I'm hearing is that the actual event didn't quite go as planned. It was a bit off key, if you like. And yet there was stuff like the Becky sort of thing that sort of confirming this is real, channelings thing. What you've been talking about with the walkie-talkies also, the patterns that you were picking up, and this information that you got beforehand, Kevin. It's like they wanted to share information. yet they were aware that the environment wasn't going to be as what's the word?
Convivial, conducive, convivial.
Yeah, cohesive, or whatever word you want to use, as they hoped, and that there was going to be energies present that weren't so supportive to this. You know, and just that in itself for me is really very interesting and very offers kind of insight into their insight into what's going on.
And interesting how Nick was there, the guy that I met, the younger guy, who was, he came up to me afterwards and said he's a channel. He said he loved the channel. He identified with the different frequencies and the characters of the people that came through. And he said it was very good because he'd learned to channel and he does channel as well. But then interesting how the Council of Eight allowed him to take a photograph of the light that was behind me, because he was positive, he was in there, he was supportive, sharing his knowledge and everything. So clearly, perhaps it's a learning lesson in relation to, as we spread our wings out into the larger population, the skeptics will come out, they will criticize us, will say it's all our imagination and it's just woo-woo science. Well, I don't think it is. But we had a similar thing when we were doing the channeling at my home over that 2-year period with Kathleen Marden and the group. We invited some extra people in there, and one of them was a skeptic, and we had all sorts of things go along, and he was totally different. In fact, they banned him. They all decided they couldn't come again because his negative energy stopped the positive energy of the channeling. So it was quite obvious, and we all picked up on it. So perhaps it's the same here. If you're not of that same frequency, then, and perhaps that was the lesson that we are, as Aurora said, where because we meet every week, we do meditation together, we attain those same frequencies. We all respect one another's ability and contact with the different levels of consciousness. And that shows really, but it's all right just talking amongst ourselves. We've got to get out there to the general public. We've got to get out there to the skeptics. We've got to get out there to the local government, which is Rebecca's doing, and let them know that we have direct contact with all these different modalities of contact that they use, and we're learning how to use them.
It leaves me wondering if that's one of the lessons from this, in that, okay, you know, some of the energies present weren't as perfect as, you know, you would have liked. Yet, if this is going out to more and more people, you're going to get more and more energies out there that we don't like. And so, in a sense, are we acclimatizing to this? Acclimatizing to working with beings such as the Council of Eight, and acclimatizing also to how we relate to others that are more skeptic.
Yeah.
Because at some point we do have to engage with those people to, you know, to make a difference. So I think Rebecca stuck her hand up there. Do you want to say something, Rebecca?
Well, I wanted to answer Dave's question before we move on. Your question about what to learn here. I want to tell you what physically being present I learned versus via Zoom. Okay, so I explained that I immediately picked up on there is a different energy here when the protection was asked for that was going to get through. I just already felt it, but it wasn't going to stop the channel. But I felt it, and I didn't get to talk to Kevin or Aurora about whether they thought that or not. So that was the first thing physically to learn, that they are able to infiltrate if they want to, and that you can't just completely stop them because they have free will or they have ways to get around it too, and that you need to protect yourself, but it doesn't mean 100% nobody's getting in. I realized that. Number two, the questions Like, for example, when Aurora, who was sitting behind me, asked hers, I could tell Kevin, the Kevin part, physically couldn't quite hear her. And I wanted to repeat it for her, but I felt a sense of holding back that she could make it known to Kevin, and she did. And they answered it pretty much. Then two people behind me, which I have yet to know if it was positive, negative, or neutral, although I want to share something that happened when we were outside that you other two noticed. The questions Kevin couldn't quite hear, and I got a sense of like, it's okay if they don't get answered. I don't know why, but that's how I felt. I was like, I'm not gonna repeat it. And I almost felt like they were not helping Kevin hear it. Like, this is not that direction we necessarily want to go in. And if you guys remember, it kind of started to go off track a little bit. And then Ort was like, well, I don't know. He actually, another thing that gives credibility in person to the channel for me is they just, if they don't know, they don't make it up. He said, I don't know. I don't even know what you're referring to, but it's not that, and I don't know. And I thought that was fascinating. And then another woman who was by Aurora had a question. And you started to get a sense of her story and frustration. And she's wonderful. I loved her. Very gifted individual. But again, or it's like, I don't know who those beings were, but you're talking to me now. And so here we are, you know, so these little side journeys when you're present and feeling that energy and watching and listening to Kevin try to manage that with these other energies and beings trying to come through is a fascinating thing. Okay. And then going outside, one of the gentlemen that was present that was behind us in the channel, but went outside with us, Gary was playing some music from The Lion King, which is an African heritage tribal songs. And it was pretty powerful. Both you guys probably would agree. And I loved it. And The Lion King is one of my favorite movies and Broadway shows. I love it. And this one gentleman, who I don't know if he has African heritage, but he absolutely shouted out and had some type of experience. And I got a shock of energy from him that was not good. I was worried about him. And he left. He said goodbye to us and left. And I said to Nick, who I think knows this guy, and Gary knows him, I said, go check on him. Is he okay? So he was having some kind of experience right in front of us that was freaking him out too, because he went inside and I still don't know if he's okay or what happened to him. But
he did the same thing one time. He was at a C5. He started talking to us like he was channeling something, and I was very uncomfortable.
Okay, so you got the same sense of it not being positive? Okay,
and this was not the first time.
Okay, but we didn't talk about this, Rebecca and Dave. Just so you know, none of us talked about this ahead of time. We didn't know him. He was from another group. Gary knew him. And so I didn't know he'd also done this previously. But the shock energy wave that hit me when he shouted out and he left was like nothing I had experienced, to the point where I asked someone to go check on him. It was so these energies, what are we to learn? That these energies are there. One thing I wanted to say about the radios is I'm holding mine. Which one of you said, I think it was Aurora, that they're there and they're not always chattering? The radio would light up either blue or purple and there's no sound. And it was going on constantly on my radio. It would just light up purple or blue. And I was like, oh, they're there, but no sound. So there was these interesting things happening. And I would like us to kind of process and think of what we could learn from these things, because I think they wanted us to learn. And the last thing I want to say is I got a sense about Melanie's question. Okay, two things. One, she had sent me an email late in the game saying, I've got a question I want to ask Kevin. I didn't even get it. I was already at Gary's. I didn't know she had a question. Meanwhile, Kevin's already written down the answer to her question. So you guys all heard me say, if anyone else has any questions, please ask. She did not ask her question. So other people started asking questions. So I thought it was intentional that her question not be asked or answered. And something to learn from that is that Kevin already had the answer in his pocket. And if he had channeled it and said it out loud, we wouldn't have that confirmation.
I'm just reading it again here, just going through the notes here. And on the bottom page, it said, and that's how when I woke up on the morning of when we were going to do the channel, and it says Edgar. And they're just notes. It says Beacon, Nick, Cosmic Family, Thanks, Evolution, Becky, and the Exo-conscious community. So when I made the notes, I wrote down Becky. I just noticed that now. So it's that in itself is, I think that the Council of Eight were indicating that they can communicate and manipulate our equipment and the negativity possibly that's there. Perhaps that guy's got a negative entity that's attached himself to it, and we were able to sense that. What does Rebecca think to all this? Because Rebecca wasn't there.
Yeah, I'd like to include Rebecca in this.
This
I'd like
is so
to hear
exciting
Rebecca
because I'm going to confirm so many things that are just astounding to me. I did listen to the first one, but when I got to the point where you were starting and you were going to begin your channel, it flipped back to the beginning and two voices came on at the same time as I tried to listen to the rest of it. None of the questions came through, just only what you answered. That's number one. I finished it before I got on with David. That's number one. Okay. Second of all, I'm so excited about what you just said about answering for Rebecca Hardcastle. When Dan and I, and this goes back because it's all tying together about what happened. First of all, I was told not to attend. You invited me, but I was told not to attend because there was going to be a negative entity that would harm me.
Wow.
You received it. You received it, but were you down on the ground with the dogs?
I was.
Okay. Part of the reason why you were protected were the animals.
Interesting.
They were there to protect
we were next to this guy. We were pretty close to him.
Okay. I was told not to go because the negative energy was going to literally hurt me psychologically and leave some kind of mark on my skin. So I was not to go. Okay. You received it, but you received your safety. We pray about these things for one another because we do this as friends on this channel together. And so in doing so, that was one of everything's getting confirmed, I hope, because I've been writing this whole time through. It's been so exciting. So that was one of them. I'm glad you were okay. I'm glad everything was protected. I'm glad that you were with the dogs. I do remember that one time I was there. Remember when you invited me to this place before, Kevin? And we were doing the filming of that movie. Okay. At that time when I was leaving and people were hugging me goodbye, not because I did anything, the radios were shing, 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 each time I was hugged to go goodbye. And the gentleman who was Gary, I believe, at one point started videotaping it. He must have something still. I don't know if he ever kept it over those years, but it does occur. That's what occurred at that particular point. They were like saying goodbye, what was going on at that time. It was quite loud, and it startles you at first, just from the hug. Anyway, the other thing was when she said Becky, I know they were referring to Rebecca Hardcastle, but that's not only was I called that when I was growing up, but when Dan and I had the encounter with the beautiful craft that came out of the Orion area, I was taken up to the craft, and of course, we recorded this with MUFON. We actually went separately, and then we recorded it. We got interviewed for it because we wanted to document the case, because it happened outside of his house. We both saw the craft. It was so close, and how it came in. It was so beautiful. But before it came into view, I was transported up to where it was. He says, "Becky, what are you doing here?" And the gentleman who was aboard was in a space outfit. It was, and I said, "Well, I'm trying to bring you down." I said, "We're here," and he talked about literally what you just read about the consciousness, the cosmos. What you just read is what I also was told when I went up there to the. I'm like sitting here going, "This is that was for Rebecca Hardcastle. I understand that, but what?"
Now, hang on a second. Rebecca, I want to share something with you. When I heard Edgar say, "Becky, where's Becky?" I immediately thought of you. So when you guys were talking about Rebecca Hardcastle afterwards, I'm going, "Oh, I guess her name is also Rebecca." But I didn't think about her at all. It was you, because you weren't there. And I that's who I thought he was looking for when he said Becky.
But it may not have been.
So that's interesting.
It was referring to both of them. Because
I'm wondering, because the words you just read were almost identical to what the pilot said to me aboard that craft that day. It's all documented, even within the paperwork.
That's trippy.
This is trippy. Okay, now you say, "Give me the date, please," of this happening. Yeah, trippy. Dan's over here laughing. He's having a ball. What was the date of this? Remind me again, because I've got the calendar here in front of me. The date that you were all there.
it was March the 5th.
March 5th.
The 5th, okay.
And what was interesting about that date, Chris Bledsoe had an orb appear at his place, and within the orb was the number 0350. Is that March the 5th?
Oh, wow.
All right, now I'm going to tell you. Dan was taking me on the way to my first rehearsal for a fundraiser, and he was driving the car because we want to be there for a couple of hours. In the sky, coming across as we were going down, we were going north because we live south. We're in the cloud structure. Were gigantic exchanges, no thunder, as what you were talking. No thunder, only the exchanges of the lightning.
Cloud to cloud lightning.
Cloud to cloud, to such an extent it was overwhelming to see it. Dan and I were almost startled to almost where we pulled over to the side because it was so large, so thick, and no thunder accompanying it at that time. So we were going. That would have placed us. I was due there by 7, so we left around 6 o'clock. I don't know what your time is. You might want to take a look at your timing. But all through last week, when I was told to go outside, said, "Look here and look here," and they would come. So it was, for me, it was an affirmation as I was listening to all of you. When Melanie gave her preparation, it was so beautifully done, so well designed in prayer structure, history, protection, dome, camera lens, then leading into Kevin going in. It was a progressive prayer of protection that was done very equally. And then she got into the light, your feet planted as the root, which is what I use often, the silver cord, which happened during the second minor stroke. When I had a second minor, I went blank. I was holding a piece of glass that shattered and fell everywhere in the kitchen to the front door. And when I did not fall, and the reason why is a silver cord went through and held me up. So I would have been broken. All my whole body would have been shattered, and he would have had to have taken me to the hospital. I was held up with the cord. At the time, I blacked out and dropped this. It was in front of the door of the refrigerator. I had it open, and all of a sudden went blank. Something was trying to take me out. That's what I think. So then she got to the grid, and the clicks. That's been very familiar. She reiterated this because when I was shown how we're not to use the nuclear devices within space, because they would show me the holographic form of sometimes the shuttle going up, and they said, "Now what do you see, Becky? What do you see?" I said, "Well, the shuttle is going up through a broken grid." yes, that's one of the reasons why we make those inert around the world, um, the nuclear, and to show you that what the space shuttle going through a broken grid pattern. So this was, to me, and then the radios. Let's see, the bird matched the chip. The bird matched the chips in the calls. Oh, one of the things that Aurora. This is just a suggestion. When I go outside and I hear birds, and one in particular I worked with last week, I'll go outside and I'll start matching the chirps, the intervals in between. I'll count the distance in between one chirp to another. I'll map it out, and then I'll go back and we can have a conversation. Animals are very easy to talk to. For me, they'll tell me what's bothering them on their side or whatever, and then I'll go to the owner who's there with them, and if they're open to it, and I'll tell them to go to the doctor, take care of this, and then they come back and let me know. So that's how we know. The body astronaut. This was just a hugging goodbye. I just want to make sure I went over everything to compliment, to affirm everything that you did. You were so joyful, Kevin, as I was watching you trying to block out all the distraction that was happening. I was trying to watch that first video. Even though it flew back to the beginning and wanted me to miss everything, I stayed with it, and I could hear you as you went through. It was so joyful. So that was really beautiful. I wanted to...
There's an interesting point you've just raised there, Rebecca.
Okay. Yeah.
In the notes I've got here that wasn't mentioned in the channel, but it's here in the fourth, fifth line down from Ra, saying that he was now aware of the energies of the earth through the ley lines that had been repaired by planting crystals throughout the ley line system, and now the earth's energy grid has been repaired, which allows for the helping with the reveal. And that was in a line here. It says ley lines, awakening souls, crystals, just the buzzwords, as it were, but that was the information that came through. So interesting that you mentioned this now, and we didn't get to that, or he didn't mention it within the channel. But interesting how we've got the notes and the information we're receiving together. It really shows them revealing themselves more effectively to us. I have a confirmation all my life. I ask for it. But when you expand out into a group of different individuals, we need another form of confirmation. And I suspect what David says, this channel was a part of that learning curve, part of our education to understand the channeling as we reach out to other groups. And we will have to answer to these other groups the questions that we're asking ourselves.
Yeah. Can I just point out, I have a friend, a good friend, we've co-hosted CE5s together a couple of times, and she's just been on a journey, 3 months journey, going to places like Peru, Easter Island, Australia, New Zealand, and she's gone on a huge journey all round, and she's visited a lot of sacred sites. And what she did was she took a bag of crystals with her, and she planted a crystal at each of these sites as she went round, and she says, I've got no idea why I'm doing it. And she just returned home a couple of weeks ago. And yeah,
that's possible. There's no coincidence there.
Yeah.
My last thought was, Karen. Oh, Dan has a comment. Karen, if I had been given a specific that it was going to hit you, I would have called you up and told you. But instead, I went into a general prayer for God to take care of everyone, and that whatever reason I was not to be there, I was to follow that. It had nothing to do with our group, but it had to do with not giving whatever negativity was there a chance to harm me, because I'm trying to be stronger. We had something happen this past week with someone. We don't have to go into it now, but I'm so grateful that I was able to be on today so that we could match again the confirmation of this, of our wonderful group together and what we've done for one another. And do you feel that you were harmed in any way outside of just what you felt? Did you have I really believe that the animals were also, I really believe that very strongly, Karen, but are you okay?
Oh, I'm fine. In fact, when I first got there, this happened the same thing 2 years ago. I drove. There's a driveway, and he's at the back of this property, kind of at least like a quarter, half a mile back. And as soon as I drove onto his property, I was hit with the energy of the property. And I felt like, okay, Kevin has said there's a portal here, and it really feels like one's here. And I'd been there before, and I felt the same sensation of, wow, this is a powerful property. Mm-hmm. So I got there, and Gary came out, and he hugged me, and he was all excited. I mean, Gary's a maniac. You know, he's just like really excited and everywhere. He loves, I mean, he's just really, really enthusiastic. I love him. And he hugs me. And again, I felt really positive and good. I came inside. Now, I had been feeling like, okay, I'm going to pray for my own protection, even though I know Melanie's going to do this meditation. And I had heard her meditation before. And I knew it was very a prayerful induction. It's really powerful. But I kept getting a sense of these words. You are of a protected group. You are from the angelic realm. And I hadn't talked about that for a long time. I initially was like, really? What does that mean? You know, and so I had to do my own exploration of, in fact, one of my questions, again, this is confirmation, was I asked who my star family was. And I'd written it down. I sent it out to our group, but I didn't ask it because it was repetitive. I'm like, why am I asking that? They've already told me. I have been told on numerous occasions by them, you are from the angelic realm. And when I don't know if it was an abduction attempt, but when an attempt was to take me by negative beings, I said outright, no, I am protected. I'm a protected group. And they laughed. So I kind of already knew. So as I came into the house and started meeting people, of course, I'm hugging Aurora. I'm like, come here, sister. You know, I see Kevin. I'm like, oh my gosh, brother, bring it in. We got to have, you know. So it was all love and energy. And Kevin and I are kind of looking at this and talking about how's this going to go. And he gets out this paper and I'm like, what's on that paper? Can I see it? And he says, no. And he just folds it up and put it away. I was like, okay. Well, because later, if I had known, I might have behaved differently in the channel and asked. I still feel like Melanie maybe wasn't supposed to ask that question. I don't know why, but well, if okay.
Now you've said that, Karen, I'm just from what you're saying now. I'm just looking at these notes, and they're sort of making more sense now than it did when I got them, when I received them. And in there, it says that we're going to be discussing the 7 sisters. These are bullet points because I can't remember verbatim what they told me. Discussing the 7 Sisters Souls group, which are represented by the angelic realm, which was Karen. The represented by our star families from the Pleiades system, I don't know who that is, and represented by the Arcturians at that channel. So there were people there that represent those areas. Now, I'm not certain whether they said Aurora now, I haven't written her name down, was representing the Arcturians. But clearly there were people there, old souls, that were representing these different levels of consciousness, these high levels of consciousness. And I have come to the conclusion that we are all higher conscious beings here to help humanity evolve as a species. They haven't given us the knowledge of who we are, but they gave me the knowledge that Sperry Andrews was an 8th dimensional being. He thought he was, but he didn't have any knowledge of it. And I know Edgar Mitchell was a 9th dimensional being and a watcher and he had no knowledge of it when he was here. So I suspect now the exo-conscious community and those associated with it are from the higher realms of consciousness up to the angelic realm, which Karen keeps representing. So I'm quite happy with where we are, but we as a group are still having to learn, but we're being assisted now as a group in relation to our contact. I mean, I think it's just fascinating, really, how we as a group are evolving. And interesting how they asked me to ask Rebecca, they asked me to ask Joy to attend, they asked me to ask Olivia, but I didn't ask Olivia. And Olivia's the one that gave me the information again, confirmation really, that I was a very high level conscious being she hadn't met before at that level, the first time ever. So really that information is coming forward for us, I think. And we have to recognize who we are and the role we have to play in the reveal itself. But it's difficult for us because they don't give us all the information, but they're assisting as we go along and we grow together. So I think that the whole event was very positive. There was some negativity there that we all picked up on. And interesting how Rebecca mentioned the dog. After, I don't know whether Karen just went to talk to someone else, but then one of the dogs came and comforted me. Again, it was that part of the protection. And I'd like to see the photograph that Nick took, because that light behind me, I suspect that was an open portal. There was a lot happened there, even though perhaps the cloud and the rain was put there to deter the sightings. But we still had, now we analyse the group meeting, there was lots of communication there. Even the thunderstorm without the thunder, there were two clouds, one here, one there. That would flash, that would flash, that would flash, that would flash. Light up the whole place. It was a plasma show. And I think Ra said that our scientists had got plasma in the wrong order. It wasn't the
Yeah.
It was first. It was first.
Yeah, it's the first state of matter. Yeah.
It was the first stage of matter, and as matter cools, then you've got the other three stages. Our scientists say it's the other way around. You've got the matter, and then as the temperature increases, you get the four stages of matter. And I think, when I listened to it, I think he said something about consciousness or source energy being, I think the matter of consciousness. I think I'd have to listen to it again because, but clearly they swapped it round in relation to our understanding of plasma in relation to matter. But again, we are all learning in relation to who we are and what place we take in this reality of consciousness that we are creating. Yeah. I'm all fascinated.
Yeah, it was. And to wrap up the dog question, if you're still there, Rebecca and Dan, when I went outside, I was quite comfortable. I'd already brought my water bottle. I think I brought Kevin one because I told him I was going in. I had my stuff on a chair. What would prompt me to go sit on the grass that's wet by this dog? The dog didn't come to me, even though I've always been an avid animal speaker, communicator, love animals, insects, owls, birds, everything. Not some bugs, but the butterflies and the good ones. But I'm sitting there quite comfortable, and I had such a strong message: go sit by the dog. And this is interesting that you would bring this up, Rebecca, because I didn't feel anything negative, but I had inside. And I came outside, and I'm all ready to do this. Gary's like, hey, get comfortable. We're going to start the music and meditation. And I get a clear telepathic message to go sit by the dog. And the dog's not near me. I mean, he's way over on the grass. He's just laying down. And I got up and went to the grass and I sit by him, and still a message: put your hand on the dog and pet the dog. And so I'm just sitting there petting the dog the whole time. And I don't know what happened, but I needed to be having my hand on that dog. And it was a very strange experience to feel prompted to go do that. It's one thing when they come to you and they sense that you're upset, but I, for some reason, needed to be over there with this dog. And I shouldn't just sit by him. I need to have my hand on him. Of course, you're going to usually pet a dog anyway. But that was such a weird message when I'm already in a chair all settled in for this meditation to go sit on this wet grass with this dog. So I already knew there was something happening there. I didn't understand it, but that's where I was supposed to be. And then I came back to the chair when the radios came on, and I felt like it was fine to go back over there. It was a strange thing, but interesting that you would pick up on that too.
Dan wanted to say something.
You've all mentioned. Can you hear me okay?
No,
Not really.
No.
No, I'm not very close to the microphone. No, numbers of you have mentioned lightning and strikes and so forth. Cloud-to-cloud lightning is fairly commonplace, and it's because the water molecules rub together and it creates a static charge. But when you get something like we saw when we left our home here in Lakeland and drove north, it was fantastic lightning strikes from vast distances from cloud to cloud. When an ET craft has to use anti-gravity of some sort for propulsion, gravity and magnetism are linked. They are closely related. They're not quite sure how related at this point, but they are related. And when you have magnetism, you have electricity. So as a potential craft could have flown right over where we were at. It was very cloudy, lightning flashing all over the place, and you had all this tremendous static charge being created by something in the sky, and was discharging into the clouds. And the clouds are either positive or negative, and they're zapping between each other.
So do you think, Dan, that electric show that we saw directly in front of Gary's home was caused by our star family's craft on purpose? Another form of communication for us? Because it was so obvious. It was, like you say, one cloud communicating with the other cloud. And it was cloudy, so we couldn't see the craft. But who's to say that they can't show us the craft's presence by using gravity and electromagnetic frequencies?
They're trying to be very subtle, Dan. Just drop below the cloud deck and show us your wings.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Thank you very much. We'll run home and hide.
But no thunder, which was strange.
Yeah, extremely bright light.
We saw it too.
Should I tell them the angel joke? So, what do you call one woman in angel in heaven? Right, you call them an angel, right? What do you call 100 women in heaven? A chorus of angels? Okay. So what do you call all women in heaven? Peace on earth.
Ha ha.
I'm sorry.
Good one. Good one.
I pulled out the books. I pulled out Kevin, your book, after I watched your book and also Forbidden, and was rereading a couple of the pages and the confirmations, and I realized I've written all the way through on both hers as well as yours, and the sessions that you had on all this. And then in chapter 40 of yours, Kevin, and in chapter 40 on page 120, I've got my top note is 129:15 RR I experienced with Or and D. And then you go into the whole, it was just a reminder. I was going back through to take a look at how we all wound up together, how we are interacting with one another, how we are even protecting one another, and that we were there. We were there with you, even though I wasn't there and I was on the way to where I was supposed to be.
We're
We
connected.
were given some, I mean, because those clouds were low. They were huge and wrapped and very clear. In the middle of nowhere, they were as clear as a bell. So when that thickness came through on and off, it shut because it hurt. It hurt the eyes. It was so bright. So whatever the reason is that we were matching one another and here we are a week later talking about it, matching our stories together, confirming these wonderful things. And I loved watching all of you on the tape as you were coming on. And
And it's now 1:11. I've just noticed the time you said.
Oh,
1:11.
11:11 here.
oh, okay.
And it's the 10th, isn't it? Or the 11th? I
11th.
forget.
It's the 11th.
It's the 11th? Oh, okay.
3:11.
The 11th.
1:11.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, there's something I wanted to say, really. When you're describing all this, as I've already pointed to, what do we learn from all this? What do we gain? And one of the things is when you encounter energy that's a bit off key, maybe negative, maybe just a little bit negative. We don't do ourselves any favours by empowering them, by being fearful of them. Remind ourselves who we are. We are. We're strong in ourselves. We're strong, and we are not just strong, but we're very, very well connected. Things like that happen, and they'll probably happen more as we encounter more and more people who are opening up to this. Yet we can hold our own vibration. We can be strong in ourselves and be true to ourselves and just say what we need to say. That's all.
Well, I want to comment on that. Oh, you go, Kevin.
Just one other thing I'd like to, within these notes I've got here, there were members of Citizens for Disclosure there. Obviously, Melanie's, I think she's the state director or assistant director for the Citizens for Disclosure. Gary's a member of the Citizens for Disclosure. So we are really reaching out now as the exo-conscious community, who were the instigators of the meeting and organised through Gary and Harry. But they're clearly wanting to bring the Citizens for Disclosure, so we recognise them because they're doing important work too, although it be with the government, local governments and things. We're more on the direct contact with the ETs, the spiritual side of the ETs, the different levels of consciousness. But to be successful, we have to incorporate and work with the other groups. And the Citizens for Disclosure have been mentioned a few times now. So I think, again, it was in these notes that they gave me, but I don't think that was mentioned within the channel. I'd have to listen again to see.
Yeah, it was. They mentioned the exo-conscious group, Awakening Souls, and Citizens for Disclosure.
Right, okay. So we've got 3 groups there already, and I'm sure there will be more as we become better known, probably, with the information that we have. We are a small group of normal people, normal backgrounds, who have direct contact with a group of extraterrestrials who want to reveal their presence globally. Somebody just touched me on my elbow then.
Well, remember they told us they would be touching us on the shoulder. Remember in the channel?
It's a while since I've been touched. As I said that, someone touched. I looked around. I thought my dog was here. It wasn't. Somebody touched me on my elbow. Yeah.
Yep, there you go. Well, I wanted to say that you don't know who is watching or listening to how we navigate this stuff. For example, the situation with Brian, and I won't say his last name, that we went through, and I had 2 people reach out to me who said, I'm really glad you didn't find a way to make him or demand that he delete the video you did with him when he was clearly on a path of negativity and in his own mental health crisis that he admitted to. Because the way you've managed that and handled it helps me deal with when someone has either a negative attachment or is a negative energy, because you fielded that in a way with your positivity that it didn't affect you. And I didn't know that. I was just trying to survive it. I mean, because at the end of it, I'm sending messages to Kevin and I don't know who else going, whoa, that really freaked me out. And I've dealt with a lot of mental health stuff. So in the moment, though, whatever I was doing or however I was being assisted was evident to other people. And they then could navigate something that turned negative. So as Dave, to your point, this is not all love and light all the time. You know, these energies that get opened up, whether it's portals or whatever you're open to, it's not just green light, go good guys. You know, I mean, it's like other things can come in, and to be cognizant of that. And when other people's agency and free will or mental health status allows for that to permeate and attach, how are we going to field that? How are we going to handle that? Because this is going to be a part of what we are doing in our group. We can't just say, I don't want anything to do with that, because often it will present itself in the middle of something that we need to navigate. And the fact that all of us dealt with that and this in a cohesive, positive way means we're all quantumly attached, that we help each other. Here's Rebecca watching this whole plasma light show at the same time in a slightly different location as us.
Yeah, maybe I didn't express myself as well as I wanted to. I'm certainly just saying, look, remember how strong you are, that's all. You know, and we will encounter things like that. Yeah. Okay.
You did, David, and I was just discussing. My husband's very careful about that with me. He wants to. He's always protecting me. I know he gave a. he loves his off time jokes, but he loves them, and I know he means well. And he thought maybe you would enjoy it. He meant well. Bless his heart.
Well.
Oh, we know it was a joke. I probably laughed the loudest.
He's very protective. But I wanted to say something to what we're just talking about, because I have found this to be a source of an example for me to follow. When people come up and say, Rebecca, I understand you're an intuitive, or they don't use psychic with me, they're using intuitive, or you have an ability to sense things. Would you please I'm sorry. David, did you need to?
Yeah. Hold on. Sorry.
No, understood. No, we can wait.
Okay.
One of the things, they'll come up and they'll say, would you please go with us to the haunted house? Or I've got this or that. And I will say, if you're asking me to go to a haunted home just to go in, I said, I can't do that. Those spirits will attach themselves to me and follow me home if I go in without some kind of purpose. I said, but if you're asking me to come and help you, if you're having a problem in your home, in your personal home, or something on your property, or something of this nature that you want me to pray over, being a Christian, I said, I will be happy to do that, but I can't willy-nilly just go to an event, go to a psychic event, or go to this, or go to all those the spiritualists over here that live here. I can't do that. It hasn't proven profitable for me, and I'm not putting anybody else down. So I have to, David, I've had to learn how to protect, and I think that's why because I didn't want to come, Kevin, for some reason. There would have been something that someone there could have done to penetrate something about me that was too fragile. And
interesting.
Yet, even when I tried to watch you today, it tried to block it, take it back to the beginning, and override your voice all the way through. So I'm saying that this is our confirmation today is as far as I can say, this is at a 10 for me. So David, you're right. I need to, and I'm working on that with me. I'm working on protecting my boundaries like I never have before.
Yeah, going back, I agree with what Rebecca's saying there. I think she's summed it up very well there. Just going back to the Citizens for Disclosure, I received an email this morning from Leslie Klein. She just happens to be the marketing director for the Citizens for Disclosure, and she asked for access to Aurora's channeled artwork. She wanted to include it in an interview that she did with me a while ago, and I mentioned Aurora, and she wants to show her artwork within that interview. So she asked me if that was okay, and I spoke on all, and it will be okay, and where she could access them on the Exo Conscious community. So again, they've given us information through Aurora that's now been linked to the, or will be linked to the Citizens for Disclosure group. I know there are different ideas than what we have, the more political, the more government orientated, but we still have to address those groups and the people who work within them, because they're wanting what we are wanting, but we, I think someone said it here, we've got contact to these higher realms of consciousness, which are assisted. So I hope that was okay with you, Aurora. I was
always. Plus, she contacted me anyway, and I gave her all the links. Yeah, I gave her the links to everything and told her to have fun.
Okay. Oh, that's good. That's good. So
that's perfectly fine.
That it's in the notes here. I mean, now we've gone through them, and interesting how when Karen asked me, I knew straight away she wasn't supposed to see them. But I said, no, you can't.
I was like, okay. Had to ask.
Dan had another question.
Go on,
David, have you ever spent any time as a child in Peoria, Illinois?
No. What was the name of the town?
Peoria, Illinois. It's in the center of the state of Illinois. Okay.
No, but
I had a childhood friend,
no,
and his name
but
was David Graham.
Oh no, not me. No, not me. I've never been. I haven't visited the States yet. I think I have had a past life in that town, Peoria.
What?
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 I think I've had a past life in that town, Peoria.
Okay, wow. This is getting a little spooky for me.
How old?
This is getting a bit spooky and weird, isn't it?
You've got my attention. How old are you, David?
I'm 72. 72.
All right. Well, I'm 80, and this friend of mine was. I was 6, 7, 8 years old, maybe, and he was the same age. Oh my gosh.
No, what I've referred to, it goes back to 300 years or more.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Not quite. I'm old, but not quite that old.
If it's possible for this to happen, and you two met at that age in that same place, and you crossed time to do that, I know that's a whole new area of discussion for scientists and so forth. But wow, you kind of
your name just popped out at me.
It's
childhood friend.
Wow.
It's a life that I haven't explored too much at this time.
English, and he came from England as a child. Again.
Wow.
Sorry, this is getting really weird. Okay, honey.
Okay.
This was unprepared. I was unprepared for this.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there was Kevin. When I went to chapter 40, also you say in the second paragraph, they had something from my book, The Theory of Everything in Quantum Mechanics. Now you know that the ETs told me to say quantum windows. The space scientists did not want me to use that, and I said, I'm sorry, I can't change it. They told me to use that, and then to add, as Kathy Martin put, a Christian woman's journey of faith and ET contact. She helped name that, Kathy did. So I was looking again at the word quantum, which is there, and how I'm just, things are coming around in circle, all of you. It seems we're coming. The merry-go-round is coming back around. If each one of us is in front of a merry-go-round, and
interesting how Karen and myself were given the same download of the quantum unified field theory. They want us to an understanding of that, so we can explain that obviously consciousness is in all matter, that it's non-local, it has duality, it has entanglement. That's the entanglement of consciousness within all matter. And now if we have understanding that the plasma is the first stage of matter, then it's changing our sciences on its head in relation to our understanding of creation and the co-creation of the realities that we live in. It makes us very powerful beings that we're unaware of. But once we're being given this extra scientific information, it allows us to explain it to others and would explain the reality of the creation side of it, as I say. So I think that's where we're heading, really. And we've got, a mathematician here, which is Aurora. She understands all this.
Yeah. Were y'all given a triangle? That's what they showed me, and then labeled.
Right.
Was it given that same thing? Maybe we could talk about this one day, and I could bring the boards that they gave me for the unified field theory. And if we all,
they give me these rocks, Rebecca.
Okay, we're gonna match up more than I thought with this. And
here's
I have. This is amazing.
We need another discussion about triangles, because this is what they've gifted me on my patio.
On my desk.
We all have them. Okay, we all have triangles that we've been gifted usually.
Where's mine?
Interesting.
Okay.
And perfect triangles of rocks. Like look at the sides on that.
And mine are in the other place.
It can't be a coincidence, can it? That we've all got the same.
No.
Given the same.
How about you, Dave?
The boards out.
No. How about Dave?
Dave, you got triangles?
There we are.
Okay.
Here we go.
We all have them. Rebecca's really spooked out now.
David, that was you came through at another time period and met my husband when y'all were 6. Okay.
It was a Native American life.
Okay.
It was a while ago. I think it was
an amazing day.
probably before the town was built even, I think.
The boy was from England. His parents had come over from England, and he was living there in Peoria. And I remember that they left, and I remember they went back to England. So,
no,
he was English. He didn't talk, with an English accent, but I remember it was a long time ago. David Graham, that was his name.
Okay.
How about that?
It's all bits of synchronicity occurring here, isn't there? Yeah.
Can we talk about the unified field theory and pull out the boards and our things and
triangles
and the triangles?
Thank
too.
You.
That would be amazing. We're gonna.
When would you like to meet again? Just looking there, there's April the 8th. There's April the 1st.
Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday, same time, etc.
April the 8th?
Okay.
Does that work for people?
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, I can do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You on my calendar, Dave?
Yeah.
You're on my calendar, so I won't forget.
Okay.
And we can discuss what Rebecca mentioned about the quantum unified field theory and see what each of us has, and then Aurora can explain the mathematics.
Thank you.
Sure, right.
Don't forget the void of consciousness.
There we are.
You've got 4 weeks to prepare.
I'm sure the information we've got will create a story, and all the bits will be connected. That's fine. But we all need to be on the same page with the same understanding of these bits of information, so that we can explain it to others if we're asked about it. So I think that's the reason for it. I think because it's science beyond our current knowledge of those sciences. Our scientists have got the quantum unified field theory. They've got plasma. I don't know whether they have the void of consciousness itself. I don't think they do, although the void is mentioned in the Bible. But we need to bring all that together coherently so we can explain it and explain really how we create the timelines. Because I suspect that the exo-conscious community, as Ra said, are the creators of our time now, but we have to have an understanding of that so we can create and co-create with our star families the timeline that they want and the timeline that we want together to co-create it. So we have to have that information so we can actually do it. And we don't need many. A small group like the exo-conscious community, I believe, can create that timeline. And I think that's the responsibility we have within the exo-conscious community, but we have to understand that as cohesively as a group. And then all over can explain it all. Yeah.
And before we go, I want to tell Rebecca, and maybe Dave, because I may not know, the answer to the triangle question. And I have a really big one that looks like a fossil I found in Alaska. That was a triangle. I finally asked, what's the meaning of the triangle? And we could talk about this next time, but Kevin pretty much just repeated the answer I was given. The 1 point was me, or you as an individual. 1 point was the exo-conscious group, or the group you're functioning in to co-create. And the third point was the Council of Eight, or the beings or guides you work with.
Wow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Karen.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll bring the recording to an end now.